congrats on this. Fantastic, very sort of unusual turn from for Sally Wainwright to start with. How did you get involved with this, Joely?
They just sent me the script, and I was like, and because my character doesn't come until episode 3 or 4. I didn't know the beginning of the story, but I was like, this is fascinating. What a world. And then in my case, I just thought she was such a brilliant, ridiculous, awful character. I was like, yes. You too?
Yes. I just auditioned for it, but they were very secretive with the scripts. Yeah. There was no mention of magic, so I remember it was just like, this highwayman, all this sort of stuff, and it was quite
Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots. Yeah, exactly. And they were quite ambiguous
you said
about.
It, not me.
No, it's true. He is very pussish.
Fabulous.
He's very pussish in Boots.
Dangerous.
But what was I saying? I was saying something so interesting.
How you got involved in the project?
Oh yeah, so they sent me a tape. They sent me the script,
and you thought this is fabulous.
I thought it was great. Yeah, really interesting.
And what about your role?
That's the same thing. I got this really lovely gift of an audition, and you're right. They were very secretive about the script, but it was even what was on the page.
Yeah,
was amazing. And then you go in. Well, I went in for chemistry reads, and getting to read with Louisa and Beau, who's in it as well. I just really.
Also, the stamp of Disney is so alluring, and Sally Wainwright, obviously.
Yeah, Sally.
You say they kept the sort of supernatural thing to themselves bits first. Would that have put you off at all, either of you, Joely?
No, I think that's an extra. I love it. I love magic. You have to think of stories we all grew up with, in their different forms. There was always a dose of magic, wasn't there? So no, that part I loved. And when I first went in, when I joined the production, they'd already made up a little mock of the first couple of episodes, and that's when I realised magic, and Nick was involved. What's he called? Billy
Blind.
Yeah.
Frank, I absolutely love your two characters that you play, obviously, and they're kind of like a yin and yang. There's him fighting with his foppish sort of, How do you play a character like that can jump from one accent to another really quickly?
I thought, I was trying to think about what's the funniest sort of thing, I guess, and I thought the idea of someone who has an alter ego is kind of it's sort of silly and funny. So I was trying to think of what kind of person would have another person that they pretend to be sometimes. So I guess I kind of approached it that way. And then, there was conversations around the accents, and then the moustache I thought would be a good idea, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, go on. I'll go on.
No, you go on.
No, you go on.
No, shall I go on?
No, you won't go on.
Go on.
Enyi's going to go on.
What about you, that character you played? Because he's quite an interesting character as well, because there's a lot of pain in his sort of history. And how was it important for you to sort of try and research what a person like him would have done at that time of that era?
Yeah, I think it was important. I feel like it's not... the resonance of that time is not as far away as we think as well. So I feel like the way in isn't to think purely that I have no understanding of the life that I live to the life he lives. So finding my own way in through how I, go through society was key. But also he has a lot of pain, but he's also extremely joyful. And that's really important to hold both things because it's really humanising. So, yeah.
Joely, your character is what I'd like to call a ball breaker. She's she's someone who doesn't take any nonsense from anyone. I absolutely adore her. Even though you say she's slightly evil, but...
No, I wouldn't say the word
she's
evil.
A
Well, she is a ball breaker, absolutely. But, those pioneering women had to be, so, and sometimes you go too far, keeping the levels Why are you laughing?
No, I'm not laughing. Sometimes you do go too far.
Not me.
Not you. Not you. Obviously not you. Maybe the character
Fred-
went a bit too far.
Oh yeah. Well, there is that funny thing, and I mean, just we can all say we're not method, but there is a tiny bit of bleeding that happens when you're on set prepping the scenes because you're half you and half the character. Right?
You make a good point though that she is like for a woman in that position, like. You got to be tough and ruthless and
Can't be a sensitive
no,
flower. You're
exactly.
not going to
No,
run a
no,
publishing house like that.
Absolutely, yeah,
Which is in of itself kind of a shame as well, because it's like playing up to the ideals of the patriarchal world to be.
Absolutely.
So yeah, she's kind of she's imprisoned by the world that she lives in, that she has to be like that.
Joely, you did say that your character doesn't come in until I think third or at the end of third or fourth episode. And did you have like any screen time with them, where the rest of the cast of the cast that you're not?
No, did you all have a read through before you started? You did.
Yeah.
Yes,
you were there.
I was there. No, I was there. Yeah.
I feel like I sat next to you.
Yeah, I was there. We did sit next to each other.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Where were
and
you?
here you are here. Well, I hadn't joined, had I?
Why not?
Because they hadn't offered it to me. They'd offered it to someone else who turned it down. I don't know, but I mean, I'm imagining it.
I don't believe that for one second.
But did you
No, I remember
do
your
a
name being
read through of the
mentioned,
whole series?
No, we didn't. We did 1 and 2.
Block 1.
Yeah, we did block 1. Yeah.
In series television, say if there are 8 episodes, there's called Block 1, which is the first and second, and then it goes on like that. So in 8 episodes, there are 4 blocks.
Let's talk about sort of the genre of this kind of swashbuckling genre. Were you ever a fan growing up of these kind of movies?
Yeah, I did. I like those kind of movies, but especially that old sort of like. I'm a big fan of old television, so this sort of like slapstick kind of Father Ted and Blackadder and Monty Python and Fawlty Towers, etc., etc. And I felt like this had elements of that kind of anarchy in. So yeah.
Who would you say you based your characters on? Like,
I didn't really base it on anyone, really. I suppose I just sort of based it on the more mischievous elements of my personality, really.
okay, you guys.
I feel like anything with magic in always got my attention, because I always felt like you disappeared. I remember the film Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh, God, so do I. I loved that.
It was amazing. But then
Angela Lansbury.
Right? And it's not a long film, but I remember when I was younger, when I watched that film, I thought I'd been in it all day. And I feel like that's what kind of magic and adventure can do in this medium. So yeah, I love that.
Joely.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not just saying this, but actually Bedknobs and Broomsticks was. Obviously, also it was 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon that later. But then there was a programme that none of you will know. It was black and white, and it was American, which was very exciting when I was a kid. And it was called I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh,
and she did magic.
Oh.
You know, and I was obsessed with that. And then, you know, it carries on through all those films, doesn't it? Whether it's Mary Poppins and... So, yeah, magic and then swashbuckling. I was obsessed with the Three Musketeers, which is just so random, because why would a little girl be interested in men fighting with swords? But say no more.
No. I wasn't going to.
Thanks all, and congratulations again. I really enjoyed watching this.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey you guys!
Hey,